What's going on, Kings? It's Keefe. In this video, we're going to be talking about something that I absolutely think every man needs to start taking responsibility for. And I think it's a perspective that most guys haven't really thought about. And I think it's really important that you pay attention to this because I think that taking responsibility for this will give you a tremendous amount of purpose in your life, and it'll inspire you to take actions because you'll realize that your life is not just about yourself. Now, before we get into that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and bell icon if you're a guy out there who's planning to become a high-value badass and have an impact on this world. Now, let's get into it. So, what is it that guys need to take responsibility for? Well, I want you to think about this. If you've ever watched sports, which I love watching, like football, basketball, all that stuff, you'll see like a player will get like a really big contract, right? Like Dak Prescott, he got like $40 million a year this past summer. And I remember watching actually at that time, someone saying, no matter what Dak Prescott does from here on out, his kids, his grandkids, his great-grandkids, they're taken care of, right? And he was that guy. He was that one in his entire family tree then. Before him, pretty sure he grew up in Mississippi or Louisiana, something like that. He was probably poor. Before him, there was nothing. And after that, it's abundance and wealth and opportunity provided to his entire family. And he was the difference maker. Now, on the flip side of that, you can be the one person who's destructive. You can be the one person in your family tree who doesn't take up the torch and run. He doesn't take the ball and move it forward. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are like that, especially these days. You know, it's kind of like that cycle where we talk about hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and then the weak men create the hard times, and the cycle progresses. Well, right now, there's a lot of guys out there who I think are kind of acting like the weak guys, to be honest. And you don't have to do that, but you got to strengthen yourself. But you don't want to be the one who's not taking responsibility for the situation that your family's in, that your generations are in. You don't want to be the one that's looked at as the bad apple in that situation, do you? Where it's like, man, at that guy's point, at this person's point in the generational tree, that's when everything went downhill. That's when we lost it. You'd be remembered like Commodus, the Roman emperor. His father, Marcus Aurelius, is the famous Stoic philosopher, and he was the last of the great five emperors. His son becomes the Roman emperor, and it was pretty much the end of the Roman Empire from there. The decadence, his arrogance, he was not a good emperor. He was awful. He didn't appreciate the responsibilities of the post. And I mean, he was the first of what ended up being the end of the Roman Empire at that point. And his father is remembered as this virtuous man who was just this great human being who was just a really great emperor who took his responsibility seriously. Do you want to be remembered as the Marcus Aurelius or the Commodus? You have a responsibility to your family, to your generations that follow you, not just to yourself. And you have a responsibility to you in the future to do the best you can right now and to live up to what you're meant to be doing here. So whatever that situation is, we're not all on the same mission and we don't all have the same purpose. If you're a first generation immigrant, I mean, think about the responsibility of that. That person packed their family up, moved across the world to usually America to find better opportunity for their family and their generations to come. They took that responsibility, and now they have a responsibility now that they're here to build something out of that. And then those situations in particular, the responsibility is always very recognized because then the second generation really understands like the sacrifices the generation before them made to get them to where they're at. Now, the problem is over a few generations, we start to forget the sacrifices that were made for us because maybe we're looking at our parents, and our parents are a product of the generation before them, which was the baby boomer generation and the World War II generation, and they were considered the greatest American generation and all that. And they kind of built this, like, the greatest country in the world. They built that. And so now we're kind of the second, third generations in on that experience, on getting those benefits. And so we start to miss out on the fact that so much was sacrificed for us to get here, and that we have a responsibility to not fuck it up. We have a responsibility from wherever we're at to take it to the next level. So if you inherit a family business, you have a responsibility to take that thing to the next level. If you're growing up in poverty, or you're the first person in your family to go to college, you have a responsibility to take wherever you're at and make it better. And this is how we keep doing things. There's the old thing of like people always want to know that their children have it better than they did. That was the old American adage. And now they say, well, your children aren't going to have it better than you. That's the new thing they say in America. It doesn't look like people's children are going to have it better than them anymore. And it's usually done as like something we blame the government or we blame this. I just blame people. I don't think people appreciate the responsibility they had. I don't think that we are appreciating the responsibility that we have to not fuck up this amazing situation we find ourselves in, where literally it's just an absolute miracle that everything is working. If you think about yourself as a human being right now, you know personally how many things you're fucking up in your life, how many mistakes you make, how many things you're completely incompetent on, the things you're not very good at. Like most human beings, 99.99999% of human beings are only really good at like two things, and they're pretty much incompetent at everything else. And with that in mind, think that every other human is the exact same way. And yet somehow we've managed to stabilize this incredible society where we have running water, food on demand, like we're safe. Nobody's like, we pretty much eradicated so many diseases. The child death rate, mortality rate or whatever back in the beginning of the 20th century, I think was like 50%. Now it's like nowhere near that. We've done all these amazing things, and we're just a bunch of apes with like bigger frontal cortexes or whatever it's called. I mean, it's remarkable. And so when you understand that you have a massive responsibility to not fuck this up, to take it to the next level, to be the Dak Prescott and not the Commodus, to be the one who changes your generations for the better. Do you want to be looked at as that patriarchal figure, the one like in several generations, your grandkids are telling your great grandkids, what would your great grandfather think about this? Like you're the one they look at, like the figure they have to live up to the expectations of. You're the one who set the standard for the family moving forward. Or do you want to be the one who fucks it all up? And you really need to think about that and take responsibility for your generations, the generations that come and the generations that came before you, that put you in the position you find yourself in. Now, if you got something out of this video, go ahead and give me a like and hit the subscribe button and bell icon so you don't miss new videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.